Welcome to the tutorial for 2.2, Discovery on Kamino. There's a bunch of different strats that will change how you play Kamino, some of them being fairly difficult. Because of this, we've given Kamino 2 different difficulty ratings, a 9 for all the strats, and a 3 for none of them. The level has also been given an RNG rating of 3, with minimal RNG in the end room. It's a very trick-heavy level, and an important one to continually practice as you improve. Let's begin. For beginners, you'll start off by moving Obi-Wan up left towards the forcible light and keeping R4 right here near the edge of the platform. After forcing the light, do a spaced jump slash with Obi-Wan to get some movement in the camera pan. Once the camera pan finishes, head towards the bridge on the right with R4 and jump across the gaps with Obi-Wan. As soon as you can, force R4 into the door. The advanced strat in room 1 is called R4 fly and saves around 7 seconds. There's 2 main setups, one where R4 is on keyboard and one where R4 is on controller. We'll teach the controller setup first, as it's considered easier due to micro adjustments being easier to manage. You'll need to do a double swap with both players at the beginning to get R4 on controller. This can be done by holding left with Obi-Wan and pressing tag with both players as soon as you are able. Get behind R4 and do 2 force pushes to get him closer to the edge. Fly across with R4 while putting Obi-Wan in this corner. Once R4 is across, take off from the middle of this edge and hold mostly down right. Once you reach the outer circle on the wall, you'll want to hold upright to make it across. It's important to note that we have to take this strange line because of what we call a no-fly zone, being right outside where we are flying. If we touch the zone at all, R4 will lose his fly and you'll die. Getting an idea of where the no-fly zone is will take some practice, as it can be unintuitive. Most of the time when you hit the zone, you turned upright too early, or your angle was too far up when you turned. Additionally, hitting the no-fly zone can be due to your initial angle from the takeoff being poor. Make sure you take off in a perpendicular direction from the edge. If when you turn upright and you realize you aren't going up enough, you can micro adjust in midair by holding more up and still make it across. It's important to remember the visual cues when struggling with this trick, as they will be your main solution to any problems that arise. The keyboard setup is similar to the controller setup with a few differences. You won't do a swap at the beginning. Instead, start by getting behind R4 and doing 2 force pushes to get him closer to the edge. Fly across with R4 and move Obi-Wan so that he is near the edge of the platform, touching the left side curb. You'll want to take off with R4 in the middle of the same edge on the platform, and try to take off as late as you can. The first part of the fly you'll be holding straight right, and as soon as you pass these 2 dark spots on the wall, switch to holding upright. If you don't make it across with R4 first try on the keyboard setup, you'll want to wait until the camera has fully panned after respawning. Move further up with R4 so that his left foot aligns with the corner of the platform, and make sure on this fly you get a really good edge fly, as you'll need more distance to make it across. Otherwise, it's the same setup as before. How you play the donut room depends on if you're doing Kamino button skip or not, and also what setup you did for R4 fly. If you did the keyboard setup and you're doing KBS, you'll need to do a double swap at the beginning of this room. This can be done by holding up on P2 and tagging as soon as you can. If you aren't doing Kamino button skip, you'll just do 2 force pushes with R4 and enter the next room. If you are doing the skip, you'll want to slash R4 once, then get those 2 force pushes to enter the next room. Kamino button skip is a fairly difficult trick to learn that saves about 5 to 7 seconds, and is considered advanced. We'll show the beginner strat first. Bring both players towards the buttons and walk across them, splitting the characters in different directions. Once you've hit all the buttons, if not already, make sure R4 is P1 and Obi-Wan is P2. You can do a quick double swap here if needed. Send R4 towards the door while Obi-Wan will stand near the edge of the buttons. Force the lever as soon as you can. Once the cutscene is over, proceed towards the end of the room, getting 2 force pushes before using the panel and entering the next room with Obi-Wan. Now for the advanced strat. KBS is the first instance of what we call a super jump, and they will be used a few times across the run. A super jump is performed by setting a forcible character spawn somewhere, then moving somewhere else with that character on ground that is unrespawnable. This character will be put in a place that makes them stuck, and in trying to get unstuck, they will zoom back to the position they were last respawnable at. We can utilize this by having characters zoom through walls and interrupt their pathing to keep them out of bounds by forcing them. To do KBS, as soon as you can move in the room, do 2 quick slashes on R4 to get him down to 1 heart. Do a force push to get him near the end of the hallway. Then once R4 reaches the left corner of the black rectangle on the floor, start flying with him. Quickly land and take off again next to the wall at the end of this smaller black rectangle. Obi-Wan should be following behind R4 in order to cooperate with the camera. Round the corner, then wedge R4 between these 2 objects. Once he's behind them, drop R4 out and run to the top of the larger black rectangle with Obi-Wan and quickly put your lightsaber away. Tap left to make sure Obi-Wan is facing left, then start spamming your special key to force R4. You should force R4 and, in most cases, deactivate him against the wall. Run up to R4 and jump slash him with Obi-Wan. R4 should respawn out of bounds. Move Obi-Wan towards the objects R4 got stuck in, and once R4 has respawned, fly around the outside of the room and land behind this wall with the force field. You can look at R4's heart count to easily know when he'll respawn, as it'll reach 4 once he respawns. You can then move with both characters towards the hallway and make sure to fly with R4 to get into the hallway. From here, do a force push through the wall. Obi-Wan will auto drop out, so pan the camera up to get him to drop in the hallway quicker. Do another force push before using the panel and enter the next room with Obi-Wan. KBS is a very difficult trick to learn and requires a lot of practice. There's a lot that can go wrong and a lot to be cautious of. Firstly, if R4 flies inbounds right next to Obi-Wan and you deactivate him inbounds, it likely means you didn't force R4 in time. If this happens, if possible, don't drop in R4 and kill him. Then, once he respawns, he should still have 1 heart. If you force R4 and turn the corner and he's not out of bounds, it likely means you were too far right with R4 when you took your first flight from the larger black rectangle. Make sure to always take off from the corner or even slightly left of the corner. If you force R4 and he doesn't land and falls out of bounds, this is a result of you holding force for too long. Quickly drop R4 out so that when he respawns, he'll still have 1 heart, then do the trick again. If the fly that you took off with has too wide of an angle and it doesn't look like you're going to make it to the collision, you can ride the wall in this smaller section to gain some height to make it up. There's a fringe case with this trick where when you do the correct setup, R4 will land out of bounds, but he won't get deactivated. This is fittingly called no deactivate, and if you want, you can skip the slash to kill R4 and save some time. You will have a different camera angle for the movement if you do this, so make sure you know how to adjust to the new camera while doing the trick. The next room begins by dropping out Obi-Wan, then switching R4 to Obi-Wan. Continue down the hallway towards the right corner. Once you reach the corner, you'll execute drops in warp. Hold upright, wait a little bit, then drop in P2. R4 should call in on the other side of the door. If R4 calls in on the same side as Obi-Wan, you called in too early. Drop out, then wait again until calling in. Then enter the next room with R4. At the start of the room, drop out R4, then continue with Obi-Wan. Your bottleneck here is actually Jango, not Obi-Wan, so you want to minimize the time Jango is waiting. Hug the bottom railing for the first 2 bombs. Then, cut into the top railing for the 3rd set of bombs. Depending on how fast you are, you might need to stop moving for a split second so that you don't activate the bomb too quickly and make Jango fall. For the 4th set of bombs, after doing your double jump, you'll have to turn back around to get another set of jumps off the bottom. For the last bomb, cut to the bottom railing to make it across. Here there's a strat difference depending on the inputs you're playing with. This trick is called drop Xin Warp, which saves roughly 2 seconds and is only recommended for people playing keyboard controller or double controller, as it only saves half a second on controller keyboard due to character spawn positions in the next room. If you're on controller keyboard, you will just stand on the button with Obi-Wan and call in R4 once he's on screen. Position R4 near the edge, and once you see Jango ride up the elevator, fly a little off the edge with R4 and hover there. Once the platform extends out, release your fly and start a new one to make it across the gap. Double jump with Obi-Wan across the gap right before stepping on the button to land on the bridge. Force the barricade on the panel, but be careful to keep R4 a safe distance away so you don't accidentally deactivate him. Use the panel with R4 while putting Obi-Wan next to the elevator. As soon as the door opens, move Obi-Wan towards the second circle in the middle and fall off the edge with R4. This will time the elevator perfectly so that R4 will get ghost hearts into the next room. Ghost hearts are achieved when a player dies right before another player hits a transition, and grants that character invincibility, which will be useful for Kamino clip in the next room. If you want to do drop Chim Warp, position Obi-Wan a little past the button near the edge so that R4 will come closer to him. Then step on the button. Swap to R4 and move in front of Obi-Wan, being careful not to move him off the button. Once Jango rides the elevator up, hover in front of the platform. Then once it extends, fly off of it and hit the button on the other side. As soon as you hit the button, pan up right. Fly onto this railing, then fly around the elevator. A little bit after R4 starts falling, drop in Obi-Wan and he should drop in the elevator. You can let go of all inputs with R4 and he should get ghost hearts for the next room. If Obi-Wan doesn't drop into the elevator, either your timing on the drop-in was wrong or the angle you flew with R4 was wrong. Drop Obi-Wan out, wait for R4's iframes to go away, then do the fly again. For this room, we'll mention both the beginner strat and the advanced strat. For the beginner strat, grab the power up to the left with Obi-Wan while continuing down the hallway with R4. Force the objects with Obi-Wan and use the panel with R4. Then enter the transition with Obi-Wan. It's important to quickly note that the amount of droids you kill in this room will affect which RNG seed you get in Jedi battle, but that will be explained more in detail in that level. Kamino clip skips the cutscene and saves around 7 seconds, but it can be difficult to learn. The room starts the same as the beginner strat, grabbing the power up with Obi-Wan and continuing down the hallway. Here we are going to be partially forcing the bricks and then standing underneath them to respawn inside and clip out of bounds. To do this, begin by forcing the bricks while standing in this spot here. Release the force and move to the left. The key here is to be up against the back wall, but not against the panel. Being in this corner here is too far to the left, so either don't move that far initially, or move against the panel and then tap back a bit to the right. After the pieces fall back into place, perform a double swap with Obi-Wan and R4. When you perform a double swap with a character that has ghost hearts, either the other player will gain the ghost hearts, or they will lose the ghost hearts and drop to 1 heart. This is the outcome we want, so that Obi-Wan can die in just a single hit. To get this version of the swap, simply press the swap button with Obi-Wan before you press the swap button with R4. Then, Obi-Wan will die and clip out of bounds. As he is respawning, you want to be tapping up slightly so that you can move through the wall. When you see that Obi-Wan is out of bounds, tap up left a couple times until he falls down below. Then move to the right, jump up, and walk forward to skip the cutscene. Make sure to not jump up too early or you will hit the cutscene. If you attempt Kamino clip and Obi-Wan does not go out of bounds, the fastest backup is to double swap again to give Obi-Wan the power up. Attempt the trick again, and the only difference here will be that when you double swap, Obi-Wan will not be at 1 heart, so he'll take longer to die. If you miss it again, it's best to take an intentional death and force the pieces when you have iframes upon respawning. If you get this case where Obi-Wan pops up to the top of the bricks, he's actually slightly out of bounds still, and these slight tap-ups will clip him back out fully. If you get a respawn case like this, where he respawns low on the bricks, that means you were likely not up against the back wall. At the start of the end fight, make sure Obi-Wan is P1 if he's not already. With R4, you can either move him off to the side, or activate the panels to distract the Slave 1 and not have to worry about getting shot. With Obi-Wan, walk over and slash Jango 3 times. Circle around Jango when doing each slash so that he stays as close to the center as possible. After the 3rd slash, head down right and deflect Jango's shots back at him. This is where the RNG takes place, as the amount of time Jango takes to shoot is entirely random. Make sure you're always to the right of Jango though, as when he gets hit by the bullets, he'll move backwards from where he got shot. By hitting him from the right, he'll move closer to the next phase of the fight. After he's been hit a 3rd time, head to the left and look at Jango. Then start spamming force. The rockets should blow up as soon as they are shot. Make sure to not stand too close to Jango so that you don't blow yourself up. Head to the right side of the platform and do the same thing on this side. After the 2nd rocket, head back to the left for the final rocket. You can stand more directly in front of Jango here, and once Jango lands on the ground after the 3rd rocket, you need to wait a tad before slashing him due to iframes. You You also need to be careful about where you slash, as Django is coded to run away from you, so make sure you react to where he's going. If you miss the slash on him, try to take a wide angle to cut him off and get a slash off. This concludes the Kamino tutorial.